So we so I suppose for a fair bit of the year we were, organising a statement of works with Datacom to do this tranche of work, and which is to so I suppose turn our F drive into an archive and move the working files into SharePoint, and it's been definitely a slow tranche of work, and it's been more complex than they thought, so it's not complete. But we have commissioned a chunk of work on it. So I suppose I thought it was a chance to kind of get introduced to yourselves about what kind of services you could provide, and even if it wasn't for this tranche of work around our SharePoint migration to SharePoint, I thought it was a good opportunity for Alvish to understand what kind of assignments you could help us with.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Alvish. Welcome to the meeting. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm good, thank you.
I'm very pleased to hear it. So this is Jim Peters speaking, and my business partner is Stuart Naismith. Stuart has implemented probably over 150 SharePoints around the globe. We predominantly work in New Zealand and Australia, but we've got some customers in Asia and UK as well. And Stuart's expertise is as an architect for SharePoint. We have a team of people who are involved with the Microsoft stack. We tend to partner rather than just take the whole job and tell you that we'll finish it all. So you do the things that are best suited to your skills and resources and time availability, and we do the things that will add value and reduce costs and time to implement. And so Mark has let me know that you were talking to Datacom in terms of getting everything moved across. So I'm not sure how far down the track that is, but maybe if I hand back to you, Alvish and Mark, and if you could give us an idea of what you'd like to get out of today, and then I'll hand over to Stuart, who'll actually show you some live and some on our server, some of the applications that we've built, ranging from document management through to a whole lot of process automation tools. The two industries we've specialized in, one's manufacturing, which doesn't really apply too much today, but interestingly, the other one is healthcare, health, aged care and disability services. And so I think you'll find a lot of what we've done quite relevant. But over to you for now, and then.
Yeah. So I wish I did a quick intro on this before that. We've got a statement of works with Datacom. They're in process of a process to work, I suppose, with our team to get files transitioned across. It's taking longer and it's more complex than we would have thought. But for today, I mean, unless you think there's an opportunity for us to relook at how we're doing that, I think more today is about understanding the kind of services that yourselves offer. We definitely are very, I suppose, incompatible with your model, like a mixed model where we've got a team of 4 on site. We've got Datacom as support for some managed services, but we have been bringing in some third parties to do other chunks, limited scope bits of work, and so I could see us working with you if there were services you provided that would fit the projects that we've got. I suppose that was the opportunity I saw, as us being aware of what teams are out there. We've got a guy working for us at the moment through Momentum IQ, and just be able to have a 365 expert to help us configure our setup, and he's outside the Datacom, outside we've used Spark as well. So yeah, we're definitely a mixed model at the moment. Alvish, does that sound?
Yep, that's a good summary, Mark.
Good summary.
Appreciate that. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so that's where we're at. So we're a fair way in, Alvish. We're a fair way in with we've done one transition of one of the teams. Their files. We did the IT team, and we're going to do another one coming up.
Yep.
But that's
What do you-
really, yeah.
And what are
Sorry,
you doing?
go
Are
for it.
you leaving everything pretty much where it is, archiving that, and then just moving your current files across, correct?
Yeah, so at the moment we did the user profiles,
Yeah.
moved it to OneDrive and making the user profile read only. And then obviously once users are happy with the OneDrive files, which was the user profile in the file server, our profile server, we're going to be like obviously archiving and cleaning up that server. In terms of files, yeah.
Where was all your data at the moment? Is your where is your data currently located? And also, are you using Microsoft Teams? Are you holding information in your Teams?
We've only a few departments that have got a Teams site.
Yeah.
That have documents on there, but we recommend not to. But all our files are on our file server, profiles on the profile server.
They're on a file server, so a standalone on-premise server, correct?
Correct.
And what tool are you using to move the data?
SharePoint.
SharePoint. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one, but that's fine. And are you finding that product efficient?
Well, it's taken us a while to get through, to be honest, on the project. We've got a project update meeting tomorrow to see where we are with that. And then we had a relocation of one of the resources that was on the project, so that's pushed us back quite a bit. And as Mark pointed out, there's been some challenges with a few things that we discovered through the project, being our file server files. We had security groups to control the access, and there's quite a few cross-department files in there.
Yeah.
And now moving into the SharePoint sites for departments, we just have to work that out. So there are a few things that we're considering, but there'll be like another department that we're thinking of moving, which we're hoping this week, but doesn't look like we might be able to do that until we come back now. But we're still progressing with the project with other things in requirements, plus getting packaged OneDrive app through in June.
And
to put all the machines and things like that.
Are you keeping the information in folders, or are you using metadata to manage your documents in SharePoint?
We haven't gone that far yet to see what it's going to look like.
Jim?
Yeah, I just wondered what sort of emphasis you've placed on the actual architecture before you've gone to move documents, because well, may I ask that question? How have you gone about the architecture of your SharePoint environment? Because some of the problems that you're mentioning are suggesting that perhaps that hasn't been addressed in the way that we'll probably show you shortly.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one, to be honest. But definitely we will be looking at that prior. That's hence the reason we've just moved user profile at the moment, not the actual files from the file server, because I haven't seen what it may look like.
Okay. So Stuart, if you could
there's two parts.
Yeah, so Stuart, if you can please consider that whole area of the architecture first, and then what we do, that'd be great.
All right, let me think about what's the best slides. I might just open some other slides actually.
So let me ask some important questions while Stuart's getting ready. Is anyone getting a break over Christmas and New Year?
Yeah, we shut down. The hospital shuts down, which is the advantage of a private hospital where we just elective surgeries here. We shut down for 2 weeks on next Tuesday. So yeah, and open the Wednesday the 7th. Yeah.
And
so we
got any special plans?
Mine's pretty normal, heading kind of back and forwards from the beach, and just a bit of multi, between Hamilton and Whakatawa. So a bit of family time. So that'll be nice.
That sounds good. What about you, Elvish?
Just traveling around New Zealand, not anywhere.
All right, guys.
Okay,
Let
here we
me
go.
take you through what we do first, and then I might break into talk a little bit more in terms of the architecture and the way that we basically roll out SharePoint. So basically, if I look at the solutions that Apache builds, they're all built with the Microsoft 365 suite of applications. In particular, we focus on SharePoint. We focus on the Power Platform. So the Power Platform are basically the applications that we build that sit on top of SharePoint once you get to the stage where you've got all your documents in SharePoint and they'll be managed appropriately. And now we have something called Copilot. So SharePoint now is offering a lot of Copilot functionality where you can start to query documents, query libraries, query whatever, making self-service now far more effective than traditional ways of having to find a document, read a document. You can query right into the heart of a document. So that there's really are massive time-saving possibilities with Copilot and SharePoint, as long as you focus initially in getting SharePoint set up properly to take advantage of it. We had a situation recently where one client, or it wasn't a client, it was someone that needed help, and they basically stuck 300,000 files in one document library, and they were wondering why they weren't getting any decent results from Copilot. Well, computers are computers, rubbish in, rubbish out. So what we want to focus on, and what we do focus on, is really identifying two types of data. One is your structured data, so things that you need to manage in a controlled manner. So, for example, anything for compliance, your policies, your procedures, your leases, your contracts, your qualifications, all these things that expire, we call that structured data. And then you've got your unstructured data, which is the stuff you keep in folders. Okay, so normally when we look at SharePoint, we separate the data into those two categories. So the way I think of SharePoint, okay, I think of it like Microsoft Office. You don't learn Office, you learn Word, Excel, and all the applications that make up the Office suite, yeah? So same with SharePoint, this disk actually shows the functionalities that you can get from SharePoint. So the first one here is to give you the ability to build sites. Okay, so sites, they're your biggest containers for all your information. And the key thing here is these sites, we can put security around them. So we can control information going in and people coming in and information going out. So the whole thing around architecture is making sure you get this correct, okay? There's two types of sites, and I'm going to flip from presentation to presentation here. One is called a communication site. Okay, so this is where a company communicates across the whole organization, or a department talks about what services they provide across the organization. And then you have team sites, and these are for discrete teams of people where you want to put security around them and control access. Okay, so there's really two types of sites that we focus on when it comes to architecting SharePoint, and I thought I'd just point that out there. So how do we manage controlled documents? So I'll show you what we've done for another client, and then you'll get an idea of what I mean by structured data. Okay, so this is a listed company in Australia. They're basically one of the biggest almond producers, or if not the biggest here. They needed to be able to, for ISO compliance, they need to be able to track the requirements around approving every policy before it's made available across the organization. And then once it's made available, being able to control it. So this document library with all the policies and procedures becomes the single source of truth for every policy and procedure in the organization. And the way that this works is we have a workflow and a form. We can go through, we can fill in what division it belongs to, etc. So what we're actually doing here is capturing metadata, okay, that will help us use AI and all these things as we move forward. And we attach a copy of the file. And what happens, we've got a workflow that sits behind this. it then goes and looks at, okay, boom, boom, this policy here, document number. So an auditor comes in and says to me, okay, well, can you show me how you are approving all your policies and reviewing them periodically in line with our requirements? I can take them to this list. I can show them the whole approval policy. I can show them who approved it, when it was approved, etc., etc. Okay, so this is the first part, which basically is the process of getting all the controlled documents into SharePoint. And once the documents are in there, then we share them across the organization. And to do that, we create a read-only library. The read-only library has all the policies in there. They're read-only, so you can download them, you can fill them in, but you can't save them back to this library. So if anyone wants the latest version of every document, they know exactly where it is. We also, in here, we capture the expiry date, okay, next review date. So this is part of an ISO requirement. Most compliance, they need to review every 2 or 3 years, review some of these documents. So we actually do this. We build a workflow that sits behind it that notifies people when it needs to be reviewed, okay, so that they're kept up to date with what's being done. So this is an example of structured data, and you can see once you do this, you could apply this to leases, you could apply it to contracts, you could apply it to any other document as an expiry date that is owned by someone. By tagging this information, okay, you are making it easier to read and easier to start reporting on as you go forward. So what's the outcome of this? Well, the outcome of this is you can then start to use some of the new functionality that's built into SharePoint, okay? And first bit I'll touch on here is AI, okay? So if I look in here, this is a new web app that's come out with SharePoint called an FAQ. Okay, what I can do here is all I do is I attach this to a document, multiple documents, a library or whatever, and I say create an FAQ for me, and it will go through, it will read the document, and it just comes back with questions and answers. So this literally takes minutes to do, as long as you have all the documents set up and in a structured way, so that the AI agent can read effectively. So what that means is don't dump everything in one library and expect good results when it's got to check 300,000 documents in order to return something. Help it to do its job.
Yeah, makes sense.
So this is an example of an FAQ. The other thing that we have, these ones are what we call agents, okay? So you should be able to see these in your tenant now. The FAQ is fairly new. We're on the US tenant, so you might not be able to see that yet. But what you can see here, and this is the key of getting your structure of all your libraries correct, because once you do this, we can then start to set up all these agents for different things. So, onboarding new staff, whatever groups of documents you want to use, you can go through. You see here, I'm just looking at this library, which is information security management. So I link this agent to this library. I can describe the behavior, what I want it to do. And then once I do that, save and close. Then what I can do is I can then use that agent and make it available across the organizations. So I need the Copilot business license to be able to build this, but once I build it, then everyone can read it. So if you look here, for example, and I wanted to look at information security management, I can click on it, the panel opens at the side, and I'll just say, tell me about physical security. Okay, so I'm going to query all those documents. Then it will come back. It reads all the documents and just comes back and tells you what you need to be aware of. So you can see here, general visitor management. So as you see here, Would you like me to summarize these measures into a checklist for a quick implementation or an audit? Just the flexibility of what you can do with these documents as soon as you structure them and use metadata and manage them accordingly, you're just going to save you so much stuff, so much time, so much effort moving forward. Anyone got any questions?
No. I understand all that. The only question I have is with our structure. As I said, we've got user profiles sitting at a different location and files on the file server at a location, but we don't know the content inside the files, inside the folders, because we control access through the folder level, the parent level, and then obviously the layers below, they've got other contents. So
yeah. So what we normally do, okay, so I know that if you're currently using folders, what I'd be looking to do is, if I was doing a migration, okay, the first thing I do is I take out all my key policies and procedures that are required for compliance. And I set up something called a quality management system, where regardless of department, all the policies and procedures that relate to the organization are in a single place, okay? So that's where we'd start. Everything else I would just keep in the folders that they're currently in, and I'm migrating the folders. Then what we do is we look at specific areas where we can start to build better productivity. So let's say, for example, we're building one at the moment to manage qualifications. So it's an electrical company. They've got 250 staff, and they need to keep their qualifications updated, their inductions updated, so they can go on site and do work. So what we do, we look at that, we pull it out, we use metadata, we use workflows, and we build a solution around that data. And then gradually that moves from being in a folder structure where I don't know what's inside the folder to something that's far more effective in terms of how you manage things. So if I go back, just go back one step before I even get to this, and I go and look at how we roll out SharePoint, what we do is we use communication sites. So this is a communication site. So we've got web parts that are pretty much out of the box, and we've got some that we've developed. So for example, with the welcome message, we've got the share price there that comes in. Another communication site, this is the HR site. So they are basically telling the rest of the organization what they do. We've got resources. We've got workflows here that we built. So if someone wants to raise a workplace concern, this is a Power App. They can go through, they can capture all the information here, hit submit, goes to quality or goes to HR. HR can look at it. They can then pass it on to whoever needs to resolve it. Once it's resolved, HR comes back to HR, and HR can close it and do any follow-up actions with it. So we've developed a whole bunch of workflows to be able to manage this. So these are communication sites. This is IT. Okay, so we're currently rolling this out at the moment, but what you can see here is we're gradually building up how these divisions are going to talk to the rest of the company. And then, of course, how they talk to the rest of the company is one thing. And then, of course, they work by themselves. So, for example, if I go and look at governance and compliance, okay, so these are the libraries, and these are related to probably your current file structure. And then we start to build workflows where we're looking at how to improve the management of some aspect of document or some category of document that they want to manage. So, for example, they do a lot of cybersecurity audits. So in here, we could give them the ability to be able to create all the issues that come up as a result of these audits. And then again, we've got a workflow behind it so we can track them all through to resolution. So the next time an auditor comes in, we can say, yep, this is what we've done, this is how we've done it, and they've got that accountability that the auditor is looking for. So in terms of solutions like this, we've actually built. So if I look in here, in terms of if I look here, these are some of the process automation solutions. So things like asset maintenance. So looking after expensive assets, making sure that they're serviced regularly in line with the requirements. We've just built an insurance management solution for the Anglican Church in Queensland. They own lots of schools, lots of parishes, and basically what this does is it enables each of the schools to go in, create values or update values for all the assets, their buildings, their vehicles, all that information. We capture that, give it to the insurance company, and then they give it back to Anglican Church, and then they invoice across the group. So that's a pretty sophisticated solution there. We've got employee onboarding solutions. We're just doing one for Tasman Pine at the moment down in New Zealand in where are they located? Nelson. So we're doing one for those guys at the moment. Equipment rental, leave management. These are all solutions we build with the Power Platform. We've then got a whole bunch of solutions we built for healthcare providers. So everything from complaints, incident reporting, plan management, medication incidents. This is one of our clients. So if I show you here, this is an NDIS provider, I think in Western Sydney. And you can see here, these are all Power Apps where the staff can go out, they find a hazard, they can fill these in. The information then gets captured in SharePoint. Okay, so if I go to the quality, you can see here, these are where the records are stored. So if I go in here, this is where the records are stored. So there's no double handling of information. I want to print that out as a report now. So I've captured all the information in that form. I want to see what that looks like. I just can click here. It will allow me to save it as a document. I won't bother doing it, but that's the way that works. So you can see I can print out a report, and I can also use dashboards to look at what types of hazards I'm finding, etc., etc. So you can see here. So again, no double handling of information. Everything is captured, and then it just flows through the whole process without any multiple handling of that info. So we've got everything here from medication incidents. Let me show you the platform that we've got here. So if I look here, so we've got here, this is continuous improvement, incident investigation, clinical incidents. These are all Power Apps. These are all lists where data is stored. These are more Power Apps. These are all the lists here. Risk management. If they need to manage risk, we usually build a risk site. We've got a register.
That's interesting. We just
talked about it yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah, that was one of the things we got built and yeah, hasn't been working properly, and we've anyway an issue there. So these projects, Stuart, they come about from people transitioning from old systems into SharePoint, or do they come about when they have a problem or something they want to provide a solution with, or is it a bit of both?
A bit of both.
Yeah, definitely
a bit of both. A lot of people, when they're doing the migration, they're more concerned with just getting the documents across accurately. Once the key thing, I think, is getting the architecture right. Okay, so the way that we work, okay, every site we apply permissions at the site level. We very rarely go down below the site level. You can have 2 million sites in SharePoint. Don't be scared to just set up a site and use it. Okay, so every site where you have unique permissions, we just create a site, we put the libraries in there. We actually have a planning process where we use templates. So we plan the sites using a template. We plan the libraries using a template. We plan the security using a template. And then all we do is we just put a data migration map together. This there goes to here. This goes to here. This goes to here. I can show you one here, how this works. So this is the one we're using for the almond company at the moment. But if I go into look at my current projects, let's say. So, and the way we do it, you know, if you, when you're looking at, if I could just show you this, because this is how I'll show you how we get things going without creating too many hassles. So what we've got, we use something called audience targeting on here. So when I'm in here, as far as the average user in this company is concerned, they can see this site, they can see this site, they can see this site. Okay, they can only see, they can't see any of these other sites, okay, because I haven't shared them, and some of them are not built yet. So what we're doing is we're bringing them across one at a time. These are what we call the communication sites, where the departments communicate across the company. We need to make sure those are up there, because that's where people are going to get most benefit, you know, when they start to interact with the intranet. So we need to make sure that these are built.
Yeah, so we've got a SharePoint intranet site that's up and running. And I feel like that's, you know, going well, and there's a like a policy document library is one of the parts on there. So yeah, there's definitely the unstructured files we are working with to bring across at the moment, and I think what we find at some of our quite a lot of our directories, rather than, it might look like it belongs to a department, like a ward team, but there's quite a few files that are shared across wider people. So you would be suggesting we just set up another site that for
absolutely
different that matches the security groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way we do it. Because the reason I do it is I get called into failed implementations, and when I go in there, the first thing that happens is I just look at the security, and the security is all over the place.
Yeah.
And the minute you start applying, you know, someone finds out you've got the permissions wrong or whatever, you've given the wrong security to someone, they start putting security on folders, they start putting security on documents. Once they do that, they effectively disappear from the ecosystem, because no one knows they exist anymore unless they've granted you permissions to see them. So what we do is we try and ensure that we keep all the permissions at the top level at the site.
At the site level, okay.
Yeah.
And
so
just
if you look at
lots of
Microsoft
sites. Yeah.
That's right. That's why Microsoft, you know, every time you create a team, it creates a site collection. And the reason they do that is because ultimately they're just applying the permissions at the site collection level. So just going forward, it can get very messy when you start doing that, because someone leaves and then no one's got any idea where the permissions are. Can't hear you, Jim.
Or someone joins a team and they've got no right to see the documents, which is just as frightening.
Yeah.
So when we're looking, so in terms of getting things across, that's the way that we would normally do it. And then the other sort of things that we built, just to, you know, just so that you know what we do as we go forward. This is really for medical, and then we've got a whole platform we built for health and safety, and the health and safety platform, like this, everything from inspections to take fives. This is all risk stuff. They do site inductions, toolbox talks, you know, might be slightly different, offices inspections, plant and equipment, incident and injury reporting. Again, it's just another solution. It's a platform we built, you know, to manage that. So, you know, where you have a workflow, where you have a process, you know, going forward, what you'll start to see, and really that's why we spend a lot of time teaching people about the QMS, because the QMS, the quality management system, teaches them how to manage the documents with metadata, and then they start to understand themselves, our clients, okay, well, we could do the same thing for contracts. We can do the same thing for leases. We can do the same thing for qualifications. And then it makes it easier and more effective to manage them. And then once you start to break them out into categories of documents, then the logical examination of that data using AI becomes a lot easier.
So creating a workflow for or the two examples, like a health and safety system, is that logging in? Is that incident logging?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for that or risk identification, like running a risk register, how big are those projects to set up? What do you? I know it must be depending on the complexity of the company, but we're one site, 350 people, and we're quite a narrow business. We're elective surgeries, but pretty deep on people's care. If we get it wrong, people die. So the health and safety incident management is pretty important here.
Look, what we do, I mean, basically these companies that I'm showing you started off with paper-based systems.
Right.
And what we did is we digitized the forms, we built the workflows to ensure that, and it's all about compliance, so that someone comes in and audits them, that we can show that we didn't just get a form and put it in a folder. We actually actioned the form. We gave it to the person who was responsible for fixing it. We then made them accountable for fixing it. We then kept the data so that we can query it moving forward. We can put it in separate lists. We can do basically anything. SharePoint just becomes a database, a structured database, and then we use Power Apps to build the software solutions that sit on top of it.
And
so if I look, for example, at one I'll show you one. This one here, for example. So
in answer to your question, Mark, because of the templates, they don't take very long at all. Most of them between 15 and 25 hours to design, to understand, and to implement.
This one here is for, this is a risk analysis they do before they work. This is a fence builder. It's slightly different, just to show you. So this is linked to other systems. So if we could, got too much going on at one time. It'll basically put the job number in. It gets the name of the job, etc., etc. So we can do things like we can sketch on these forms. We can get signatures on these forms, etc. The demo gods are not being nice to me today,
especially for a live site. So.
And what Jim said, so 15. Sorry, did you say 15? 10 to 25 hours or 15 to 25 hours?
Yeah, just depending on the complexity of the form. See, where I go into here, for example, this is what takes time. Like if I need to print this out in a report to give to someone, because people don't want to look at a database, then, this can be a little bit more intricate. But you can see here, we can capture all the signatures. We can even put images in here. So however you want to present things, it just depends on the complexity of the documents you want to build. But I would say on average, like Jim said, between anywhere from 10 to 10 to 20, 25 hours, depending on how complex. And whether you want the reports, whether you want the BI reports or whatever, maybe a little bit more, but
right.
Not a lot.
Yeah, that's feeling I had, when I was thinking of starting numbers, I was thinking, is it a 40-hour job or is it so that's already probably less kind of language than I was thinking. From scoping a couple, we haven't really done much of this stuff, but scoping a couple smaller jobs that we've had.
If you would be able to, if you could share the forms that you want to digitize and the process behind that form, what I would do is we would give you an estimate of what we think it would take.
Okay. Well, I think there's a couple of projects that we could have a think about, and get those ready to show you and get an estimate.
See, when we're doing our migrations as well, what we do, everything is driven by templates. So we've got templates. So as we do a department, so for example, if I look at HR, and if you haven't got one, I would get one. But this is the team. These are the folders. So they were using Teams, which is quite messy. But what we do is this is our source, this is our destination, and as they go through and move things across, we can just tick everything off and move it to the right location. So everyone complain, oh, I don't want to fill these forms in, always try and shortcut, but it's well worth just having a simple form and doing this. And when I run projects and people just use the templates, doesn't matter whether you've got 10 people or 5,000, it's the same process. And we just do it one department at a time.
Yeah. And then, I think just looking at each folder, people can drill into them and think about what's in there and think about what they want to actually take across.
Yeah, that's right.
Part of engaging with the department, I suppose.
And one of the guys that I was working with there, he had like about, I don't know, 100,000 folders and 100,000 documents in one team. So in one SharePoint site. And so the simplest way is we'll just leave 99,000 there and take 1,000 across. And just tell me what you want your new library structure. Tell me how you want to categorize those documents going forward. And that's what we did. And we'll just archive that team. The owners of the site will be able to go back in. The owner of the team, they can go back in and look at the documents, but we archive it, and then everyone just starts working in the new environment where they have the desired folder structure without having the legacy problems of, the messy folder structure they had before. So it's cleaning house.
Yeah, Alvish, we files and folders, was it 300,000 files and 30,000 folders, or have I got that right?
No, I can't remember. I'll have to check that report.
Yeah,
but somewhere on there.
But there's definitely a project to identify what are the active ones we're still using that we'd take across versus what would stay as our archive. Because definitely in the finance area, we've got, 2008, 2009, 2010. We've got a lot of stuff we might be reluctant to get rid of, but it's just archive material now.
Just rule of thumb, nothing more than 2 years old for starters.
Yeah.
I
think that's 100. Well, unless we want Copilot to be able to see it, I suppose.
Yeah.
If it's and again, I don't know why you would have anything older, because then you risk it looking at old documents that have been superseded. So so I suppose there's risk in taking old stuff across.
Yeah, look, you can still you can still archive everything in SharePoint. It's still an effective archive tool. So you can bring things across there. And even with Copilot, you can connect to multiple sources. So even if you did want to go through it, you could to get feedback through Copilot, you could still use that going forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I have just put my hand up for the reason that we have used up the time that you have very kindly offered to us this afternoon, and I'm very grateful for that. And so I was just wondering if there are any last questions that you have, and what would be the next steps that would be most helpful to you, please.
Well, for me, I think it's given us heaps of food for thought. And maybe we'll Alvish and I get together and think about next steps and how this would butt into or whether it changes our view of what we're currently doing. There's definitely multiple ideas like the workflows and the workflow tools is some things we've partially put on hold or put on hold. So lots of food for thought. I think if we ever get together, we'll ever get together and have a talk about it, and then maybe we get back together in later January, and talk about if there's any next steps.
Okay. I do thank you so much. Is there anything that we can provide now? Would you like an idea of just an overview of the way that we engage and a rough idea of what the investment is? And that way, given the 10 to 25 hours, you can estimate what it might be. And when we get together when we next speak, you can either say, oh, no, I fell off the chair and we couldn't do it, or...
so indicative rates would be helpful. That'd be great. That's all
we usually just, as we mentioned earlier, we usually sell blocks of hours. We usually sell 100-hour blocks at a time. And then we grab a SharePoint site, we give you access, and every task we do, we draw down on those hours. So you can see, we're building that workflow. You can see how much time we've spent on every task that we've done in order to build that workflow. So you have we don't want to be moving data from A to B. We want to try and focus where we can add more value to your business. And you're right, that's through your document structures and your workflows.
Yeah, I know that sounds like a great next couple of steps.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Lovely to meet you both. I hope you have an amazing Christmas and New Year break. And I'm actually not back till the 20th, but Stuart, I think you're going to be around a fair bit, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'll be around all the time.
So I might leave it for Stuart to touch base earlier in January, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. I think we'll have a pretty busy January getting back and getting set back up. And I was just helping commission some new parts of the building that are coming in. We're refurbishing reception at the moment. So yeah, we're gonna have a pretty busy January. So late January is good. So
I'll give a call then when I'm back. And Stuart will pop something through in an email that'll give you some tools to be able to estimate the investment for budgeting purposes.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can do that once I get forms, Jim. I can't.
Oh, yeah. Would you like that'd be great. Mark, would you? I'll pop an email through shortly. And if you could possibly send Stuart an idea of maybe one or two of the forms that could be a possibility, and that way we can actually give you not just an hourly rate, but an estimate, but an estimate on an actual process.
Yeah. Okay. I think that'll be maybe a risk matrix thing we've
perfect
been looking at. So yeah. Okay. That sounds like a plan.
Amazing.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time and have a lovely run to Christmas and Christmas when you get there.
Thank you so very much, and the same to you both. And great New Year, and we'll speak towards the end of January, and Stuart will be in touch via email, and I'll send a thank you note as well. And really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, guys.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks,
See you.
Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.